is Kissi, and I'm back with another video. Today's video is going to be all about my Stanford application. So when I was applying to Stanford back in November, it was honestly one of the most challenging things I had to do, simply because I was expressing who I was and what I was doing for the past 4 years to an admissions officer that I'm never going to meet. And sometimes it is hard to translate like who you are and what are your interests and your passions over paper, but that is something that we all have to do when we go through this process. And for me, I actually use YouTube and certain people's like blogs and things like that to get lots of examples of how to construct your college application, and those kind of examples were super helpful to me. So I kind of want to give back to the community that helped me by sharing my application and giving tips throughout the video to kind of help people, not even if you're applying to Stanford, but any other school, because, across the board, they're asking like the same things and have like similar requirements. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing I want to mention is just things about my school. So I go to a public high school in Florida. We're like a medium-sized high school, and my school is actually pretty unique in that because it has a program called Cambridge. So it's relatively like unknown to a lot of people. However, it's like pretty big in Florida. And it's basically an academic curriculum mandated by the University of Cambridge, and we take like British exams, like we take AS level and A level exams. And I've done that since freshman year all the way to my senior year. It's just the academic curriculum that I chose to pursue, because I did have the option to go to a school with like the AP program, which is actually the school that I'm like zoned for. And then I also had the option to go to the IB school, but it was like 40 minutes away from me, so it did have, some challenges with that. But the reason why I liked the program was because it was like flexible, it was super adaptive to my interests, and I just felt like it was a program for me. I didn't really like vibe with like some of the AP courses and like the IB program, so that's what I decided to do. However, like when I was like, last year and this year, I kind of began to get worried about whether or not Cambridge would help me, because in, the U.S. college admissions process, AP and IB are just, well known and they're looked at highly. However, Cambridge, again, is a rigorous program, and it's something that my school is developing to, become more and more inclusive. So because my school focused on the Cambridge program, we had limited AP courses. We only had AP Statistics and AP Calculus. And AP Statistics we actually only just got last year. So our AP program really isn't fledged out. However, that's something that they plan on doing like in later years, which I totally agree with. And then another program that my school has is something called dual enrollment, and it's like a partnership that a lot of schools will have with like the local state college or community college or even state university, and it just allows high school students to take courses at those colleges for college credit. And that's something that I did in my junior and senior year, because that's when it was open to us. And, I was able to take so many courses, especially ones I was super passionate about. I feel like my dual enrollment experience really allowed me to gauge like what my interests were and like what my academic passions were. And that's something I also talked about in other parts of my application. So first tip also was connect various parts of your application, because I took college classes, I talked about my excitement for college, and I also mentioned, the courses that I took, like, Introduction to Environmental Science and Human Anatomy and Physiology, and like philosophy classes and ethics classes. And just like my love for learning was expressed in the various different programs that were available to me and ones I took advantage of. I also took enough classes to where I earned 60 credits, and I was able to graduate with my associate's in arts degree. So I'm actually currently a college graduate ahead of my high school graduation, and quite a few of us at my school were actually able to, graduate because we took enough courses to meet the requirements. The next program that my school has is Florida Virtual School. It's actually something that is available to any Florida student, and you're able to take, whatever course you want. But because my school didn't have the AP courses, I decided to take AP courses online. So I took one AP course in my junior year, and I took 4 AP courses in my senior year. In part, I did it because I was scared that I wasn't on like the same level as a lot of other applicants, because, people had been taking AP classes since their freshman year, and I was like lagging. However, I also chose the courses that I did because I was purely interested in the subjects that I took. And yeah, so those were the programs that my school had to offer, and again, I took advantage of every single one. And just through that alone, it showed Stanford that I was taking the most rigorous and challenging course load available to me, and I was also going to outside avenues to take courses, because dual enrollment and FLVS, which is what it's abbreviated to, those are things that are outside of my school, and it showed that I was still willing to go and take those courses. So again, another tip is just be passionate about the classes you're taking, pick them with care, and just be authentic, and don't also just take courses again for the college admissions process. And with me, it did influence me in a certain way, but nonetheless I took courses in subject areas that I absolutely loved. The next part of the application are actually like honors. And because my school kind of like an under-resourced school, we were like a low-income school, we didn't have like your nationally renowned clubs. We didn't have Model UN, we didn't have DECA, and all these kind of things. So a lot of my honors were like academic honors, and that really was my strength throughout high school, and it makes sense that my honors were in that area. So the first honor I got was I received my Cambridge diploma, and similar to like your IB diploma, when you pass like a certain amount of exams with a certain grade, you get your diploma. How Cambridge works is you take like your ACE exam after your Cambridge class, and they're graded on a scale of A to E, and E is passing, so you can get straight E's on all your exams, and you've gotten your diploma. But I received high marks in all 7 of my examinations, so I actually got like the merit designation on my diploma. So that was like the first achievement that I put down. And the second achievement that I put was getting my Cambridge Learners Award. This is something that my school like started rolling out last year, and it basically just recognizes students who scored highly on their exams for like the previous examination series. So I received my award in my junior year. However, it was for the exams I took in my sophomore year, like at the end of the year, and I received high marks in those exams, and so I got the award then. And then I actually got the award again in my senior year. Sorry, I got the award again in my senior year because I also received high marks for the examinations I took in my junior year. So that was 2 things that I got consecutively, and I put that on my application. The third thing that I put on my application was National Honor Society. This is a club that my school has, and it is one of the like nationally renowned clubs. However, at the time that I was applying to college, in the November time frame, my school's club, we hadn't been doing a lot of service projects, and we weren't like super active, and I just didn't want to put it in the extracurricular section because I didn't really have much to talk about or mention any of like my contributions to the club. So I put it as an honor because I was like inducted into the club because of like my merits. So I put that there. The next thing that I got was a recognition called Junior Marshal, and this is again a recognition given to the top 10% of juniors in the class. And what you do, or what you get, is like you get a sash that you get to wear around school, and it's a nice pat on the back, basically just saying like you did it, like keep it up, 1 more year to go. And the junior marshals are also able to assist the graduating seniors in all their festivities. So we went to like all their events, we helped volunteer, we actually got to sit behind the graduates during graduation, and it kind of gave us a sneak peek into what we would be doing next year. So that was a really cool experience at the end of my junior year. And the final thing I put on my application in the honors section was honor roll, because that is something that I received all 4 years. So in conclusion, honors is just a way to show, what kind of recognitions did you get in high school. For me, they were academically centered. However, enter competitions, try and get awards like through extracurricular activities, so you can kind of build up that section. But again, participate in things that you absolutely love, like if you do like FBLA and stuff like that. All the achievements that you get in that is something that you could put on the application. But also another little tidbit is to start early. I did kind of rack up a lot of these awards in my junior and senior year. However, if I can give any advice, it would be to start earlier in your like freshman and sophomore year as well. So the next part of the application is the real tea that everybody loves to talk about, and those are stats. Stats are super important. However, they are like your objective measurements. Any school needs to objectively review their applicants. However, it is still a holistic process. And to me, I really do think that you have to almost like meet a threshold, and once you kind of like pass over it or like you meet it, they will continue to look at your application in a holistic manner. For me, again, like I said, I cared about school. It was super important to me. It was something that I loved, and so my GPA reflected that. So at the time that I applied to Stanford, I had a 4.65 GPA, and so that's basically at the end of my junior year GPA. And then, because I applied early action, so they didn't get to see like my first semester one. And the next part is standardized testing. For me, I took the SAT. It wasn't, easy at all. And it was really the multiple choice section that always got me, because in the Cambridge program, we actually don't have multiple choice exams at all. So I basically haven't seen a multiple choice exam since like 8th grade when I was taking the SAT. It's just like, I don't know, like multiple choice is such like a brain like game to me that I can't like get around it. And so it kind of reflected in my score. And I took the SAT 5 times, so College Board really took my money. So like my highest scores, because Stanford does super score, in my junior year I got a 660 on the English section, and then in my senior year I got a 690 on the math section. And then I actually took the SAT with essay also in my junior year, and I received a 20. So I did have like a lower SAT score for Stanford standards. However, like as you can see, I'm kind of a good writer, so it kind of reflected in my writing score. But again, I think I kind of like met their threshold to where they did really look at the other parts of my application. And because, you know, schools are admitting human beings, so they're going to look at the human qualities of your application, and, you know, SAT and GPA isn't everything with that application. So the next part of the application that is also very, very, very important, and it's almost the, I want to say, the most important part of the application, and that is your extracurricular activities. And so for me, I was heavily involved in community service, and in my extracurriculars, I kind of wanted to create a profile about like what was I doing in high school. So that's kind of how I shaped my application. I kind of was trying to convey a story of, you know, of a 17-year-old who just loved her community, her school community, her outside community, and I did activities that reflected that. So like my biggest contribution in high school was my club called Cambridge Ambassadors. This is kind of that club that really showed that I was a leader, and it was probably a contribution that may have even helped me get into the university. I did join the club when I was a freshman, and I did that all the way to my senior year. It's basically a service organization where we do like monthly service projects. However, I would say that we're a little bit different than like NHS, because, you know, I would say that like our projects were like super duper creative and unique, and we tried to like assess an area of need within our school, within our community, and try to creatively apply some kind of solution to it. So we've done a bunch of activities and fundraisers and all of that. Some of the things we've done was a Christmas drive. We actually did a Christmas drive for our local domestic abuse shelter, and we got the entire school involved, and we went to donate that to the shelter. We got to, you know, see the smiles on people's faces. We've done book drives, and annually we do our school's carnation sale, so that's our fundraiser, so we can get money for everything that we're doing. And in my senior year, I felt like I was able to just advance the club a lot more, because before we were a relatively small club. We had like maybe 10 to 15 like active members, and as much as, even though we did a lot with the club, it was hard to get those really creative and diversified service projects when we were such a small club. So it was one of my objectives to grow and advance the club. And, you know, I did that through utilizing like social media. We had a Twitter account, and I used Remind, which is like an online texting thing that like your teachers will use to text you and things like that. So I used that to get like volunteers and keep people updated about the events, because I just felt like, you know, active communication was going to be the best way to get more people involved in the club and, you know, get them to come out and volunteer with us. And so we grew the club to actually having over 50 members. That's something I'm super proud of. And, you know, again, you know, some people wouldn't go to events and some people would go to events. But the thing that I absolutely loved about it is that constantly at club meetings, I was seeing new people. And since we had such a large, you know, a lot of members, you know, our projects became a lot more creative. They were more diversified, because you had people of different academic interests and different backgrounds, and other people had other volunteer experiences, and they were able to contribute that to the club. So yeah, so we did stuff like that. And then like my senior year, we were able to sponsor, you know, Red Ribbon Week, and we actually did like a homecoming drive, because, you know, homecoming and prom are super expensive things, and, you know, it is super unfortunate that some people are able to, you know, just get up in the morning and go to an expensive prom dress shop and, you know, just buy the dress of their dreams. That's a privilege that I definitely have. But since I do go to a lower income school, that's not something that everybody has, you know, the privilege to do, to just go out and like spend whatever money on whatever dress and shoes and makeup. So we actually did a collection drive of, you know, both female and male, you know, homecoming attire. We did this like in around the homecoming time. and we were able to get so much stuff, dresses, makeup, shoes, and a lot of the stuff was, people wore it once, like a year before. So it was a really fun drive. We got, again, the entire school involved, parents, teachers, all the faculty, everything like that. And now the club actually has a huge presence on school, and I'm glad that I was able to help the club grow, so then for next year they're able to do more and more with it. So yeah, that was a big rant about like Cambridge ambassadors, but that was one of my bigger contributions. And again, it showed like my leadership. I had a leadership position, and it showed that I was capable of leading and motivating people. I also had another leadership position, and that was my role on the school advisory council. I was actually the student representative, and the SAC committee, which is what it's called, is a collection of administrators and teachers, parents, and then I was like, again, the student voice of reason for, what are the students thinking and stuff like that. And I did that for 3 years. I did that sophomore year, junior year, and senior year. And I was able to like sit on the board, and we kind of talked about, funding allocations and school policies that they would implement, and certain types of like academic enrichment activities that that administrators thought would be best. And I would kind of give input like, yes, this will work, no, this won't work. Being on the club did give me the behind the scenes of what like education policy looks like, and how community members all kind of coalesce to get educational decisions made. The next thing that I did was I worked throughout high school. I did retail. I suggest that everybody works retail at least at some point in your life. Fold your clothes, kids. Put stuff away. Don't leave things on the floor. I worked in my junior and senior year. I worked about like a 20-hour work week. And, I worked because I just wanted to, make my own money and have the full liberty to spend what I wanted to spend on things. And, so again, some people don't have that privilege, but I did. I was able to balance, maintaining my high grades, being super involved in my extracurricular activities, on top of that working. And, that's exactly what Stanford saw. I was able to balance a lot of that stuff. Working also just gave me amazing interpersonal skills that I'm going to use for the rest of my life. So it 100% had more benefits than just, me getting paid, and it may be like just looking good on a college application. Retail experience is something that I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life. The next thing that I did was another volunteer experience, and that was volunteering for Habitat for Humanity. And I actually worked as like their summer office coordinator position. I did pretty typical receptionary duties, but then I also represented them in some of like the community events that they have. I would like sit at the Habitat for Humanity booth and talk to people, and I ran some of the like fun things that they had for kids, like the bouncy house and stuff like that. Whenever the office would be slow or there wouldn't be an event, I would actually go to the retail branch, which is called their Restore, and I would help them out with sorting through donations and like helping clean up the store. I would even like bring my friends to, just hang out and volunteer at the same time. So I was a really nice experience. I was actually going to do a build with them. However, I just like never found the time to volunteer with them for a build, because since I live in Florida, it's super hot, so they only do it during the winter times, and I just kind of escaped me. So I'm really sad that I didn't have the opportunity to do that. The next thing that I did was I actually tutored my neighbor's daughter in her 2nd and 3rd grade year. We mainly did math, and then she loved reading so much, I also just helped her develop her reading fluency skills. And with the math portion, because in the 3rd grade is when kids start like their standardized testing in the state of Florida, so I helped her with like math strategies and how to retain the information that she's learning at school. To help her also with the FSA, which is what the Florida exam is. And I did that for 2 years. It was a heavy time commitment, but I did it like just, as a favor to my neighbor. It was, I love the little girl. She was so cute. And, I just did that because it was something personal to me. However, I did put it on my application because it did connect to other parts of my application. Like I talked about in my supplement, just my devotion to learning and my love of creating love for learning in other people. And that showed with me, taking the initiative to tutor somebody and also grow their interest in academia. The next thing I put on my application was I actually did a lot of like volunteer events for just like my school's program, the Cambridge program, and this is something that I did like all throughout my 4 years of high school. There would always be events to help with like the induction of like the new members into the program. There'd be like welcoming dinners and talking to some of the 8th graders about whether or not they should do the program. And those are just things that I've done like all throughout the 4 years of high school. And I put it on my application to again show that I was, invested in my academic program and I wanted to grow it and also convince people to come do Cambridge. And it kind of went with that supplement that I talked about, education and just my love of learning. The next thing that I did was a smaller contribution. However, it did have a lot of significance to me, so that's why I put it on there. And that was my involvement in literary club. I just did it in my sophomore year. However, I just really wanted to talk about like my participation with the school newspaper. I did write a political commentary piece during the 2016 presidential election cycle. And when writing that commentary piece, it both just like developed and fostered my love of writing and then also developed my interest in politics. Politics is something I've always been surrounded by. My parents are definitely just politically engaged, and writing that political commentary piece kind of sparked something in my brain that is something that I want to pursue in either or both my collegiate career and my like career. And yeah, so writing for that newspaper piece was something that, definitely had an impact on my life. And the final thing that I did was I was a marching band. So yes, I played the alto sax, all throughout middle school. And so I thought, I also want to do it in high school. Playing an instrument was something that I loved, and I loved band and everything about it. However, just being a freshman and all the adjustments of, being in high school for the first time, coupled with, the long hours of marching and concert band, it was just a lot. And for me, it was something that I personally just couldn't handle. So I just didn't do it any other years. And I explained just that in like my little description of the club. I just said that, it was something that I loved in middle school and I thought I would love it. However, I didn't. And I just withdrew my participation from the club because I just didn't want to continue to participate and be engaged in something that I didn't absolutely love and wasn't absolutely passionate about. And that's something that's very honest, and it showed Stanford that I wasn't continuing to do things that I didn't like. So those are all the extracurriculars I did. Again, kind of create like a narrative of like what you were doing in high school. For me, I showed that I was somebody who was engaged in my community with all the volunteer experience that I had. I also went above and beyond to help, grow my school's program and also help like my neighbor. And I was able to also balance a job on top of all of that. And it just accumulated into them perceiving me as somebody who could probably handle Stanford's, challenging rigor. Like rigor and their, the workload and extracurriculars and all of that. It just essentially just made it seem that I was somebody who, I guess, would fit into their campus life. And the next part of my application is something I'm going to talk about in another video, and that is my essays. Crafting my essays was definitely a daunting task. However, I got it done. And it was also a very, very important part of my application. I actually chose the Common App prompt that talked about like your background. So I wrote an essay about like my identity. And this kind of, since I talked about, like in my application, it asked about, my education and my extracurricular activities and the honors I, received in high school. I felt like this like identity essay kind of just tied it together and kind of was like the bow on like my application, because it went deeper than just things that can be found on a transcript. It was something that was intimate to me, and it was super personal. And, although you don't always have to go super like touchy, like my essay wasn't like super touchy or emotional whatsoever, but you don't need to go that route. You can definitely, talk about, just a fun, loving experience that you had or a new mindset that you had. There are so many different prompts to choose from. I don't know if I said this, but I applied on the Common App. And so yeah, I think there's like 8 prompts or something like that. So you definitely have so many options. That was just the prompt that I read, and it immediately clicked that this is the one for me. This would just best show what I had to offer on the campus. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it's super long. Hopefully I can edit it down to be a lot shorter. If you guys have any questions, you can leave them in the comments down below, or you can DM me on Instagram. A lot of you already have, and I've been trying to answer some of your questions. And so that's also going to be in the description box. And please like and subscribe to this channel and this video. I would really appreciate it. Bye!